Peace, family, rise and shine. And we're going to talk today's class, right? On the moon day, I'm going to explain incense and sage, suffumigations, perfumes, why we use them, and what do they channel, and why do I use them? Because I'm tapping into the higher realms, the higher forces. Like when you get on the phone, there's no wire there. Wi-Fi signals, frequencies, energies. So anyway, the channel that you want to follow, if you want to learn more about this, I'm gonna post it as always. Is Foolish Fish, So incense and perfumes, rituals and evocations. You evoking, different energies. I don't deal with the demonic stuff. I only deal with angelic, but you can evoke whatever you want. That's on you. But this is the classroom, and we're going to learn.
Is the use of smoke or fumes or vapor in a ritual context. It literally means sending smoke up from below.
See?
And as it turns out, it's one of the most
below.
widespread practices among spiritual practitioners worldwide.
Our ancestors did this all over the place.
Why is it such a popular practice?
Ancient
and how can
mystery
you make use of scented smoke in your own rituals?
This is
That's
where all
what we're
this
going to
comes
look
from.
into today.
My
There are quite a
ancestors.
few theories on why suffumigation is such an effective part of any given ritual, why it plays such a potent, important role in so many practices. And of course, it would be very hard to say that one theory is more accurate than another in the absence of a definitive theory of how the world works. But I think it might be fun to go over a few of those theories. Maybe you'll find something that resonates with you and your practice, and maybe you'll find something that sounds absolutely preposterous, that you feel you might have outgrown, or that you might eventually grow into, or back into. After all, a healthy philosophy of life should always come with the understanding that philosophies are maps, and of course maps are only ever useful insofar as they're not confused for the territory itself. So here we go, a few interesting theories of why suffumigation works so well according to different maps, before we dive into the second part about how you can use suffumigation yourself. Let's start with a very basic, realist worldview that accepts that spirits are individual entities, quite distinct from ourselves, that we can interact with. So someone with this worldview would suggest that communicating with spiritual entities comes with some degree of difficulty, since they exist on a plane that in some ways intersects our plane, but is nevertheless distinct from our plane.
See?
And so from that perspective, these entities must be somehow
It's like
coaxed. Depending on the practitioner, that might mean either
reflection.
threatened or enticed,
in a
so that they
different
might be
dimension,
willing to make the effort
different
to cross over to our material plane of existence to communicate with you. I'll just make a little addendum here for any novice listening in to say that just in the same way as you don't need to travel to a distant country to communicate with your pen friend, in the same way spirits are quite capable of acting upon your requests without needing to appear in person, in a visible form, in your presence. But that's for another video. There are a great many very well-respected practitioners in the occult field who hold this view. In fact, I'd say the majority of the most vocal practitioners with the highest visibility in the scene, so the modern superstar occultists, if you like, they seem to hold this view. And they are of the opinion that spirits have a keen sense of smell. Now, as I warned you, this may sound surprising to many people for many different reasons. However, this has a biblical grounding. The deluge, or the great flood that was recorded in the Babylonian Epic of Gilgamesh, was, as you know, also reported in the Torah, in the book of Genesis, as a part of the account of the life of Noah. Now, after the whole global destruction episode, in Genesis chapter 8, verses 20 and 21, we can read the following lines. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and took some of every clean animal and some of every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And when the Lord smelt the pleasing aroma, the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground because of man. So we're not even talking about a spiritus loci or a demon or an angel here or the divine member of a pantheon. We're talking about the Hebrew supreme divinity who clearly really likes the smell of a good barbecue, according to scripture, of course. Most of the classical grimoires give instructions on which incense, which aroma, which perfume to bring to the ritual, depending on the spirit being evoked. I say most classical grimoires just to be safe, but I don't personally know of any that don't mention aromas. And yes, the theory is that certain spirits particularly like certain smells, and they're more likely to turn up if the environment into which they're being called is made welcoming and actually appealing to them with their favorite scent. In the same way as some fancy furniture shops and clothes shops pump various exotic and luxurious aromas into the air to lure customers in and make them believe that the shop's exorbitant prices are somehow not unreasonable. Now, these same superstar practitioners I was talking about, they also suggest that this is the reason for ritual bathing, as body odor, no matter how faint, is supposedly repulsive to certain spirits. And the same for shaving hair, which is particularly prone to spreading the odor of the human body. If the theory is correct, I wonder how necessary shaving hair would still be since the invention of shampoo, but I suppose that's another video too. Some supporters of this theory also suggest that the upward direction of the smoke somehow carries messages or prayers to the spiritual realms. But now we're really entering the realm of superstition and a model where spirits literally live in the upper layers of the planet's atmosphere and beyond. All right, so then there's the psychological model. Not the idealist model, mind you. I'll talk about that in a bit. The psychological model is still a realist model in that it assumes that consciousness is something that arises out of matter, that brains actually generate consciousness, which, let's be honest, is kind of the default assumption that most people believe before they spend any significant amount of time thinking about it. So the psychological model assumes that everything is just some kind of placebo effect, that in fact the practitioner is really, in quotes, only communicating with parts of his or her psyche. Many people from the previously discussed model would argue that this model is inconsistent with their own experiences of encounters with physically manifested spirits. Be that as it may, this is a model that became very popular in the second half of the 20th.
I'm going to leave it right there. You know, stay on your square, circle your square. Remember, you're the pyramid, you're at the top. You're the eye, you know, you're the consciousness. You're the soul, you're the spirit. You're organic. You were here for a reason. One time for the one time. I love y'all. Peace, love, and light. I hope, you know, this helps those that are seeking, you know, higher realms. And I'm going to continue on doing what I do. One time for the one time.